Houston Cougars, a furious comeback to knock off Duke and advance to the national championship game.
Here is Zion Chris, big hole, open sesame. Zion Chris, wow, the 72-yard house call.
Stick it in your pipe and smoke it, baby. Yes!
Welcome to the Scotland Podcast. Coming back to a week of Cougar sports where there are so many happenings that we're coming back twice this week. We're doing two different episodes to talk about all the Houston Cougar happenings going on in season, off season. And it kind of worked out organically, Bobby, that this episode kind of ended up being the championship episode. We're talking about multiple teams in championships of various varieties. The track and field program at the Big 12 Outdoors, we're going to talk about that. Women's golf, obviously making history, becoming the first team in program history to qualify for the NCAA championships, everything they did at the Louisville region as well. Might have also gotten a repeat guest, good friend of ours, who's very familiar with the Cougar women's golf team, to give a little preview of what's come and talk about a very successful last week in Louisville. Bobby, so much Cougar stuff to talk about. How are we doing tonight, friend?
Dude, I am great. I know we have a lot of recording to do tonight and tomorrow, but really excited for all the happenings that, you and I had discussed. Like, man, with everything kind of going on, we might have to do some off-season stuff early. There's so much good going on right now that we're going to be able to do 2 episodes on everything that's happening at the university.
Yeah, you might be wondering with this, although I've alluded to the multiple episodes, like, when are they going to talk about the baseball coaching change? When are they going to talk about the new tennis coach? And trust me, that's coming next episode. Bobby and I have plenty to talk about on both of those topics as well. But tonight's for championships, and we're going to talk a little Cougar off-season stuff at the end here as well. I'm going to mention at the top here, a little housekeeping. If you do not do so already, please, please, please support the work that Bobby and I do as the internet's longest running Houston Cougar sports podcast, as an independent sports podcast, by going to patreon.com/SHPAWDcast. That supports the work that we do on a weekly basis to phrase the time and cost, neither of which are enormous, neither of which are insignificant, that Bobby and I deal with when we put out this here weekly show. Got to lead with one of the teams I mentioned as in a championship, a team that made history this past week, which we will dig into entirely here in our latest edition of Cougar Golf Corner.
All right, everybody. Well, we are going to talk a little bit of women's golf here. Sam, I use an A5 size notebook, and I have 4 pages of notes on the regionals and this women's golf team. Super excited about it. So a lot of you who follow us on social media knew that women's golf was playing in the regional. So just as a reminder, the regional was played Monday through Wednesday last week, and we briefly talked about where the women stood. But to again recap, the top 5 finishers in that regional advanced to the national championship. That is something that the Cougs just hadn't done before. Granted, it's a fairly young program. Is it our newest program?
It is our newest program.
I'm thinking about it, I'm like,
Yep.
We haven't had anything else debut. They had never made it to the national championship round, which is 30 teams make it out to Carlsbad, and they have the national championships out there. Heading into Wednesday, the final round, the Cougs were in first place, and they looked really good. Their chances of advancing looked really good, but it's golf at the end of the day. There's no time limit. There's no clock to try and burn down to just survive until clock runs out. You can't do that in golf. You still have to go out and put up a score. But started out okay, but Auburn ended up coming on pretty strong. They were in second place, and they came on pretty strong. But the mindset for me, Sam, and I think I had you on board with this, was who cares if we win the regional? Like, would it be cool to win the regional? Sure. Like, I would love to have that kind of feather in the cap. I think that'd be a really cool thing. But at the end of the day, I didn't really care if we won, just advanced. There was a time on Wednesday where it got a little sketchy in terms of advancing, but it was all for naught, as coming down 18, the Cougs had all but clinched it. I think I've told this multiple times to multiple people that, like, you kept texting me, like, is it official yet? Because you were busy. I think I was off on Wednesday, and you were like, is it official? And I'm like, Natalie St. Germain's coming down 18. It's going to take something crazy happening for it not to be official, but I've seen crazy happen in golf before, and I didn't want to say it until the putt fell, but the putt fell, and the Cougs make history as they become the first team, the first Houston women's golf team to advance to the national championship rounds out in California. Such an exciting moment for some amazing women, talking with Coach Lasprilla and watching her also talk on Ryan at Go Cougs. He's a big golf supporter as well, but watching her speak there as well, like, just you could feel the excitement that she had with her team of just being able to experience that moment with them. Like I said, there was the final day. You come in at 8 over. You make it a little bit tighter than I think anyone wanted, but here we are, super excited for the trip out to Carlsbad.
Yeah, it was top 3 busiest work days I've had in the last year or so to defend myself slightly there, but followed along as I could, and it was just really incredible to see the women finally put it together, because this isn't the first this is an outlier season. You've had good season. This has been a particularly good season. You finished second at Big 12 championships, the highest finish the team has had now in its third season as a Big 12 women's golf program, which is cool, but it's all for naught if you don't have a good 54 holes in the round. And we've had some close shaves too. Last year, I think you were specifically pretty close to reaching that cut line, but fell heartbreakingly close. So really cool to see. And I think the exciting thing is that you have 3 of your regular seniors, Moa obviously, but also Natalie St. Germain and Alexis Aldana, who have been a part of this program now for 4 years and were brought in here with the vision of a team making history here. And that's always the coolest thing here, is seeing a program make history. I mean, winning championships is probably the coolest thing, but I think nothing excites you or I more here than seeing a Cougar team make history, whether that's program history, like in this case, whether that's recent history, modern history, Big 12 history. And this is certainly fits in that category of a history making group, which is really, really exciting. And that these athletes who have represented this school so well, that stayed, because I can't speak to the, I guess, likelihood of transferring, but regardless of sport, it's never been easier to transfer, and that you have this core group of athletes who have all stayed here at least 3 years, including Maylin Kim now in her junior season, towards building this thing like that. That is so cool, man.
Yeah, it's just awesome to see the history. It's very rare now as Houston fans that we see the first fill in the blank happen. It doesn't happen very often. So really, really cool and exciting to see. And then just kind of looking at the team, how they performed as individuals at the tournament. You saw some real outlier performances that should probably make you feel kind of excited for what you may get in Carlsbad. Your number 1 player, Moa, ended up as your number 3 out here. She had a couple of bad rounds and just didn't play, I don't want to say up to her potential, but just didn't play like we necessarily always expect Moa to play. She ended up finishing 3rd on your team. you know, you don't expect her to play like that. You look at Maylin Kim, 5 over on the final day. Maylin Kim doesn't shoot 5 over. It's very rare, right? Um, and you certainly don't expect another round like that from her. If you get yet another top 10 or top 5 performance from Natalie St. Germain, not saying that that's easy to do, right? But if she can go out and your number 3 player, right? I put that around air quotes, can go out and give you a number 1 player performance. You're doing good. So if you look for those two to bounce back and you get another stellar performance from Alexis Aldana as well, who I thought performed really well. She does the thing I love about Alexis Aldana is we don't talk about her every tournament about how she goes low or do anything like that, but she just does her job. And there's something about players. I don't like to call them role players, right? Because I wouldn't say Alexis Aldana is necessarily a role player. There's a good chance she doesn't go out and win the tournament, right? But if she keeps it around 2 over or even, you got a shot, man, and that's what you need out of your number 4 player. You know, I was talking about this leading into the regionals. Our number 1 Moa isn't super highly ranked in terms of where she stands nationally, but your number 2, your number 3, and your number 4, you arguably in the regional had the best number 2, you probably had the best number 3, and you probably had the best number 4, right? So your number 4 could probably be a 3, your 3 could probably be a 2, and your 2 is a solid 2, right? So like you're just Alexis Aldana coming in as the number 4 is just what a blessing to have for the team. So if you can expect your top 2 players to bounce back, you got a shot in the at the national championships.
Yeah, consistent player too, like that, and consistency. I would say it's always hard regardless of sport. I don't know if it's definitively harder in any sport than golf. I would say
Agreed.
just the volatility of like you can have a top 5 round, more I guess framing it like the pros, but you hear about guys like missing the cut after winning a tournament, like the next event and stuff like that. Obviously, college golf's a little different there, but if you have someone like Alexa who's not gonna have like a really bad round or not someone who generally has a really bad round, that just makes you such a formidable team, and that's why they are where they are. Is that they're a good capital T team.
Agreed. That is exactly what you're looking for. And like I said, just a really cool moment. We saw the videos on social media of them celebrating making the national championship round. Just a really, really cool thing.
Yeah, this program's going to be around for many more years, and this team will always be the first team to do it. Their golf's not done. We're not happy here because we want to see what this team can do at nationals, but this is always going to be the first team that did. This is always going to be a history making group. And that's so cool for everyone involved.
Absolutely.
So you don't just have to get Bobby and I's insights this episode. We talked to somebody who could speak on what this team did last week in Louisville, what this team is going to do in Carlsbad better than anyone. We had on repeat guest of the show, Lydia Lasprilla, head coach of Houston Cougar women's golf, to give us the lowdown on all those things I just talked about. And here that is.
Well, we are very excited at the Scott Holman podcast to have on the women's golf coach. I know there's an official title, and I didn't write it down. By our one of our donors has their name attached to it. I'll allow you to do that, Coach. But we are very excited to have head women's golf coach, Coach Lydia Lasprilla. How are we doing today?
I am doing great. Thanks for having me.
Good. So I'm going to start off. We're going to go back through, take you to the regionals. Take us back to the final putt from Natalie St. Germain falling. What was that moment like as a coach?
It was awesome. I can't really put it into words how exciting that whole trip was, really, from start to finish. But when the putt finally went in, it was just like, it was so exciting. You know, we had a pretty good cushion, but I think I even texted you, Bobby, like, I wasn't celebrating until that last putt was in the hole. Because just in team golf, you never know. But oh, it was such a great feeling. So proud of those girls.
Yeah, we were actually like kind of tracking it just to kind of before you go, Sam. Just Sam was like, "Is it official yet?" And I got the scoreboard app or website up, and I'm like, "There could be a quad. I don't want to say yes. There's no clock. Like I can't say it's over." So yeah,
No.
totally get that.
To defend me a little bit, I can do the math. I had a pretty good idea, but I was like, let me lean on my slightly more golf knowledgeable friend here for my exact feelings. You kind of talked about it a little in your last question there, but at what point did you start to feel pretty good about advancing on the final day? Obviously, the third round wasn't the easiest and made it a little more
Mhm.
interesting, but what point did you start thinking, okay, like I'm not getting ahead of myself here and thinking that we could be going to Carlsbad?
Right. I think I know it sounds crazy, but from the time that we got there and watching them in the practice round, like they looked so solid and nothing was really phasing them. Um, Obviously, the first round was good, and that second round they played really, really well. So I felt really good going into that final round. But again, you never know. I would say like through hole 13, 14, it started getting a little tight. And there was a time there where it maybe got around 5 or 6 strokes, and that was a little nervy. But then Alexa and Moa both made a great birdie on 16. And I think after Alexa's birdie dropped on 16 and I saw her hit a good drive on 17, I felt pretty good.
So we just kind of following throughout the season had observed a little bit of like what we'd call a second round slump throughout the season. And the last two tournaments, the Big 12 championships and obviously the regional, like you said, they played really well round two. Is that something you guys kind of noticed? And what have you attributed that change to kind of coming over that?
Yeah, I think, really all year we had a good regular season, but I never felt like we put everyone together at the right time. And so when we would come back and have our individual meetings, everything was kind of talking about postseason and talking about, okay, we need to do this, this, this to get to nationals. And um our message before postseason, before the first round of Big 12s was like, you've just got to believe it and believe in each other. You've done all the hard work. And really 1 through 8 and 1 through 6 that were in postseason, all those players, like they're really talented players. It's just about going out there and believing you can do it. And what they did at Big 12s was awesome. And I think that really prepared us for regionals too, to see, okay, we can hang with any team in the country. It's not a fluke or a coincidence, like they can really do it. And I think that proved a lot to them. So it was kind of the same thing at Louisville.
Natalie St. Germain specifically has really played great golf these last three tournaments: the regional, Louisville, Big 12 championships, the regular season finale in Dallas. Was there a swing change or something mentally that has flipped the script for her?
She has played really solid. I think just confidence, seeing a good round again in tournament play at Trinity Forest, and then seeing some putts fall, and then all of a sudden you just gain a little bit of confidence. But she's just been in a really good place mentally, off the golf course, on the golf course, and um, just very easygoing. I feel like these last 3 trips wasn't trying to put too much pressure on herself to go perform. I think as a senior, sometimes you feel like this is it,
Right.
and I've got to go out there and play great. And she just kind of let it happen these last few, and it's been really cool to watch.
So everyone who listens to us knows about Moa and Malin Kim, but someone who's been really critical and crucial the last couple of tournaments, you've gotten a ton from Alexis Aldana. How
Mhm.
important it is for her to not just kind of keep things in control and in front of her, but to contend for top 20s.
Mhm. It's huge. I think that's a huge difference maker in making a run in postseason and not. I mean, like I said earlier, getting them all to click at the same time, that's the key, right? Like I feel like all regular season, maybe 2 or 3 would play good, but maybe 2 or 3 wouldn't. So it was hard to climb the leaderboard. But Alexa's been awesome. We just had our senior lunch last week, and a joke was like, my husband has always said she's sneaky, sneaky because she's just sneaky good, right? Like, you might not see a ton of birdies, but before you know it, she's made one every couple holes, and then she's 3 or 4 under, and she's never really phased. She's very calm. Um, like the final round of regional, she was so calm and just very composed. And she's a great one to have. She's a great girl, but she's solid, and she's been a big reason for our success, especially late.
Bobby mentioned something to me about the NCAA championships and kind of in our last episode giving people a background, like, hey, if the Cougars advance, this is kind of what the next round of postseason golf entails here. That if you play well enough in the first 54 holes, you get to the match play of the tournament. So what I was curious about is obviously focus on the 54 holes here, but how do you prepare for the physical grind of 54 holes of golf, followed by the mental switch up of potentially a different entire kind of different way of playing golf, I guess.
Yeah, it's a long week for sure. So it's actually 3 rounds, and then you cut to the top 15 teams, then another round and cut to the top 8 teams, and then match play
So
starts. So one play
72 in match play.
Yeah, so one plays 8, 7 plays 2. It is a long week. So I think just like we've been doing, we just got to keep it light and fun. And like when we're off the golf course, and then when we're on the course, it's business. If you need to practice, do what you need to do, and then get off the course, because 72 holes plus match play, it can really wear you out, especially out there on a hilly golf course. So we're excited.
So I'm going to make some assumptions here, and if I am wrong, please say so. But when a larger sport kind of makes the national tournament, I assume that a guy like Coach Sampson has zero concern about where they're staying, how they're getting there, anything like that. It's kind of handled by the basketball ops team. And looking at the roster, I don't see a women's golf ops team that isn't just you and assistant coach Cabe Waters. So seeing as how the school has never done this as a team, who are you kind of leaning on? How are you making sure everything is booked and ready to go? Who's helping you in the athletic department? I'm sure it's a lot of a group effort, because you also do have to focus on building a strategy for a course that you haven't played this year and things like that.
Yeah, it's been a lot. It feels like it's been a grind since we've got home from regionals. I mean, I've done all of that as far as booking, and been on the phone with several different people of the plan for the week, because you also have to plan what are you going to do those 5 days when you're not on the golf course. But we've got actually have some good donors that are going to be out there and going to help us out and take us to dinners and play golf on Wednesday at the Farms, which is a great track out there. So it has been a lot. And luckily, we got to go last year with MOA. So I have a good idea of of the golf course where we're staying, kind of how it all works. I rely on my former coach at Florida State, Amy Bond. She's always a mentor of mine, and have asked her some questions. But I think being there last year has helped me too, because at least it's not a brand new place.
Right.
So of course the primary focus is on the championship itself, preparation, everything around your athletes, and strategy, like Bobby said, getting these athletes to play the best golf possible in California. But bigger picture, what is the team getting here do for you in the program now that it's actually happening, and not something that you're selling as a vision to prospective players now they're here, like Moa, Natalie, Alexa, and Malin, that they can achieve? What does this do for the program, bigger picture?
I think it's huge. I think it's going to help us. It's definitely something we need to continue to build on. Losing 3 seniors is hard. There's no way around it. But the transfer portal is going to open up next week, and I think being able to say we just competed at the national championship, like that's going to be a huge help. And we have players behind these seniors. Maylin has been outstanding. Amelia's been outstanding. Sadie just had a front row seat to postseason. And the girls at home too. We've got a great group. So I think it's just something, now that it's been done, it's something we can build off of, and hopefully try to be there year in and year out. That's our goal.
Well, excellent. Well, Sam, do you got any other questions? Anything that caught your attention? Because I'm all out.
No, this is really exciting. We're going to be following along closely while y'all are in Carlsbad, Coach. It's very, very
Awesome.
exciting. It's cool to see y'all make history.
Exciting. Yeah, super
Thanks.
super exciting. I've been hitting Sam with pretty much every tweet, Instagram post that's come down the line. I'm like, check it out, dude.
Well, we appreciate you guys. Thanks for always supporting us.
Of course, thanks for joining. We appreciate it. Well, I want to thank Coach for coming out and or hopping on the podcast and joining us. Super super exciting to have her on. Really excited for this team headed out to the San Diego area, Carlsbad. Sam, you mind if I go ahead and just preview this just a little bit?
Let's do it, buddy.
All right, let's have some fun. So I hand up here, fully admit I didn't understand the format perfectly. I missed 18 holes as coach quickly corrected us, which thank her for doing that. Really want to make sure we get all the information right here. So hand up right there. I take the fault for that one. That's on me, guys. That's on me. Fully take responsibility there. But to summarize, 30 teams make the tournament. It's the top 5 teams at all 6 regionals. So kind of think of it like a regional invite for baseball. Then you make a supers. You're kind of at the supers level here by making it to the NCAA championships. You play 54 holes. You got those 54 holes, just like the tournaments you've seen before. They're going to play those 54. Once the 54 holes are finished, the top 15 teams, so they cut the field in half, advance to your the next round. And the next round is another 18 holes. And then from there, they take the top 8, and the top 8 move into what is called match play. Sam, I'm going to take a second to explain what match play is. Match play is different than how we follow golf tournaments mainly here in the U.S. If you've ever watched the Ryder Cup, you're very familiar with what match play is. But basically, instead of everyone having their scores kind of tallied up and you add them all together and see what the result is, you now play your opponent head to head. So each team will send out their golfers, and they will be directly competing with against another player at another school. And how it works is each hole is its own mini contest and its own mini match, right? So if you get a birdie on a hole, right? So you go 1 under par on a hole, and your opponent has a bogey. You now lead by 1 hole instead of by 2 strokes. Does that make sense, Sam?
Yes.
And then whoever wins the most holes wins the match. And then whichever team wins the most matches moves on. We clear as mud here on that.
I would say slightly clearer than mud there. I assume in an instance where, let's just say, both the golfers par, they both birdie, nobody gains any ground there. It's basically just the same score as before, right?
Correct. It's just called all square, right?
Gotcha.
So you'll see when they're tied, it'll be all square. You'll see 1 up, 1 down. That means they're up a hole, or 3 up. And then if it gets really complicated, if you're winning by 4 with like 3 holes left to play, the match is over because there's no way they can come back and tie you. That is so you'll see it on the scoreboard is like 4 and 3. So you were up 4 and there's 3 left to play. So, but yeah, each hole is basically its own mini match, and if you win the most mini matches, you are the winner. It's a really fun way to play golf. It's a really fun way to watch golf because 1 hole doesn't take you out of it, right? If you have a blow up hole, then you just lost that hole.
I assume you see golfers take chances more too, just because, hey, like not, if you triple bogey something because you took a chance trying to get to the green, like you're just down the hole.
Yeah, and then that's where like the person furthest from the hole is the one who is supposed to play first. And there's actually a strategy with that when you're playing match play, right? Like if you're further back and you stick at the 8 feet and you got a good look at birdie, now instead of playing it safe, the other team's got to kind of knock it close too, expecting you to make that putt, right? So there's a little, and that's why you heard that's why you heard in the questions with Coach Lasprilla, that mindset change that you got to go from stroke play to match play. So if the Cougs make it to match play, we can have a discussion about that all we want to. I will come on and we will break it down and we will do all of that. So just kind of moving on now that we know what match play is and you can kind of watch the tournament, even if the Cougs don't make it that far. If you're just kind of curious and you get hooked, maybe you can understand it a little bit more. But looking at the field, Sam, I'm going to go through the list of teams real quick. You have University of Southern California. You have USC, Ohio State, Duke, Northwestern, Texas Tech, Texas, North Carolina, Oklahoma State, Michigan State, Virginia, Auburn, Houston, Arkansas, Iowa State, Ole Miss, Stanford, Pepperdine, Oregon State, Arizona State, Mizzou, Wake Forest, Florida State, Florida, Eastern Michigan, which you wouldn't think is a very good golf program. They're ranked higher than the Cougs are. Kansas, SMU, Texas A&M, Baylor, LSU, Tennessee. And then I kind of went through and I looked at all the rankings. 9 of the top 10 are in the field. You have 9, 10, 11, 11 of the top 15. The Cougs come in ranked number 29th. The Cougs aren't going to come into this tournament as the favorite. They come in as the 22nd highest rated team here. Think about that. They're ranked 29th, and there are 21 teams ranked higher than them in this tournament. I would safe to say that the clipped and the scoreboard ranking system is pretty effective in determining who the best golf teams are. I do like, as much as I bashed them when they started, it does seem like it's a pretty subjective way to judge the teams. But that being said, the top 15 is pretty bunched up. You have number 17, 18, 19, 21, 22, 23, 25, 26, 27. You're really not separating yourself by a ton there, right? There's no real big, like, oh, suddenly they're all low and then there's a jump to U of H and some other teams. It's like U of H is in an area where they conceivably can compete with that number 19 team, that number 21 team. The 15th highest rated team is only really 10 spots ahead of you in terms of the rankings. That's one good tournament. If you have one bad tournament, you can fall that far in the rankings. In my opinion, I would love to see the Cougs being as close as they can to that very first cut. I want to have to be checking my phone to see if we're going to make that cut, right? The last thing I would want is, by the end of 36 holes, you're kind of going, yeah, who cares what they do tomorrow? There's not much, right? Like, I would love to see us 2, 3, 4 shots back heading into that final round of making the cut. Not saying that we are necessarily that should be the goal as us fans or anything like that. You're the 22nd highest ranked team and they take the top 15. Like, you're not in a spot projected wise where you're going to make that cut. But if you're competing for it and you're looking close, that's a really big step for me and something I think is a really big step for the program as well. So do I think it's a failure if you don't make that first cut? No. But if you're 20 shots off of it, I'm a little disappointed, even though I'm super excited for how the season went. You kind of are like, well, let's get there. That was kind of the goal for me, is get there. And now that you're there, you're like, what if we did? You know what I mean? So you're not necessarily a favorite to get there, but if you can at least be a few strokes off of it, I would feel really good about where this team finished.
Yeah, I think I was going to ask you before I forget this question.
Ask.
Do you have anything, like, any interesting stuff about the course? Because I know, like, Carlsbad and San Diego generally is kind of a golf spot there. Like, anything you can add about the course itself? I mean, I assume it's great if they're hosting an NCAA championship there, but, like, as a guy who knows more about that kind of thing than me.
Yeah, of course. I kind of looked at it and I watched and I talked with Coach a little bit about it. I would say, well, one, it was renovated in 2024. I want to say 2022 is also popping up in my head, but 2024 really is what I believe it was. 2024, whenever you do a big renovation like that, something interesting happens with the greens is it takes your greens a year or two to maybe get settled in. They just got to take root. This sounds weird. You got to learn how to water them. You got to learn that kind of stuff. Yeah. And Coach Lasprilla actually mentioned that she had seen, or that last year when they went out with Moa, they noticed those greens were really, really hard because there's aeration. There's a lot of things I could dive into the nerdy side of it. I'm not going to, right? But those greens were really hard because that was really one of their first years to really be on the to play on those greens. And they're saying this year they're going to be a little bit more receptive, so scores may be a little bit lower than they were last year. Lots of hills, according to Coach. Coach said that it's a lot hillier than you would think, being in San Diego, and or in Carlsbad. It's pretty hilly. So that's something they were kind of working on, is their shots hitting up into greens, hitting down into greens, and adjusting your yardages and stuff off of that. But Coach said the course is beautiful, and they're really looking forward to it. But yeah, I think the greens are going to be, it's going to be interesting to see how the greens are going to be receptive to golf shots.
Nice.
And that's me as far as the preview in terms of what I'm looking for. I think a stretch goal as well would be to see one of your players make that the match play is kind of like a single. I think that'd be kind of cool. Not necessarily.
What do you have to do to qualify as a single? Because I know the what you have to do at regionals, because we've had individuals go to regional from regionals
I
to the
want to
championship
say
before, but
I want to say off the top of my head, it follows the same thing that your that the teams do. So if you are on a team that didn't advance,
but you're top 5,
you would, or you were in the top. They have like, I want to say it's 30 as well for match play. I think you can make it that way. I'll have to double check that, but yeah, I do believe that is the case.
Gotcha. And so I just alluded to it. We've had individuals qualify for. The first individual to ever qualify for the Cougs, Leonie Harm, who applied her trade at the University of Houston from 2015 to 2019, a multi-time American Conference Player of the Year, the first really good golfer to come to this program. Like, that's no disrespect to the other athletes of that era of Houston Cougar women's golf, but was your first really standout athlete from what is by far your newest sport in terms of the varsity and collegiate offerings at the University of Houston. Won her first event. Leonie Harm on the Ladies European Tour, won the Amundi German Open. Had a course
her home open,
her home opener from Stuttgart, Germany originally. Really cool stuff there. Like, I think we wanted to, while we were on the topic of golf, at least mention that, pay tribute to a pioneering Cougar golfer while we're talking about a pioneering Cougar golf team.
Yeah, I mean, birdies her last 2 holes to win. You saw a lot of people really blowing this story up, her getting the win, and we saw national media coverage. When I Googled it to make sure that it's the same Leonie Harm, because sometimes that'll happen, right? If you cover this long enough, you'll see. And I was like, that name is far too not, like, it's not popular. Like, that's not such a.
There can't possibly be 2 European Tour women's golfers named Leonie Harm. Yeah.
But let me check just in case. I mean, Chicago Tribune had it. So, like, you saw a lot of really cool story, a lot of people talking about it. I saw it on Twitter. Like, I saw a national golf writer mention it, and that's when I sent it to you. Super excited, especially after the wreck she was in before she came to U of H. I heard Coach talking about it. Just really, really great moment for not just the Cougar program, but for Leonie Harm herself.
Yeah, it's really cool. Really fun side story here. I don't know if I've mentioned in the show, but this was after I moved away from Houston, was living in the Austin area. I came back and connected with Dustin before he ended up joining me a different part of the Austin area when he moved out there. We went to go see U of H play Cincy. Big men's basketball game. That was when Cincy was top 5. We beat them, rushed the court, and that's what truly punched that team's ticket as an at-large to the dance. Unfortunately, your co-host Bobby parked in what was very clearly marked as a no parking zone. It was kind of a free-for-all in the neighborhood there by TSU, and I remember coming back and seeing my car not there, and you have that split second.
Oh, it was towed?
Yeah, buddy. And a split second, like, oh no, have I finally gotten got by Third Ward, despite not getting got in 4 or 5 years of attending the University of Houston previously. And then I realized I looked down at the curb and saw a very clear no parking. I'm like, I think I have a good idea. It was, I'll say, not surprised when I did the little City of Houston check to see if I had been towed to see my my car come up there. Leonie Harm, like me, also parked somewhere where she couldn't park. So her and I have I not told you the story?
No, I've never heard.
Yeah, I get it. And Dustin can confirm this. He was smart enough not to get towed, but he, as a good friend, came there with me to make sure that I got my car in one piece and all that stuff. And that part was fine. But Leonie Harm was there with me. I ended up talking with her for 15, 20 minutes, and she was like, yeah, my bags are in there, and we have a tournament this coming weekend, so no choice but to get this. Had a really good conversation, really, really cool person, and really cool to see her representing herself in the University of Houston at the professional level. Again, young program, so there's not a lot of that out there. Pioneering player, obviously, first Cougar to qualify individually for the championships, and obviously was a great player at the American Conference level as well. Just we both figured we should mention that story before we got done with the topic of Cougar golf for tonight.
Yes, sir. Just a cool story. A lot of good things going around Cougar women's golf right now.
We'll mention briefly tomorrow night's episode. We will talk in full about the men's golf team, who are currently in progress, having a better tournament than they had at Big 12s, but with some work to do here going into the final day at their regional. Just finished round 2, going to round 3 up Winston-Salem. We will talk about that in depth tomorrow when all 54 golf holes have been played and we have an actual finished result to talk about there.
Yes, sir.
And sticking with the championships, last week we had the final Big 12 championship of the athletics calendar year. Since we last recorded, we previewed it last episode, the Big 12 outdoor track and field meet, which took place last Thursday through Saturday in Tucson, hosted by the University of Arizona. Bobby, ready to get into it?
Yeah, man, let's go. Your preview was so good. I'm ready to hear everything that went down this past
Hope
weekend.
it wasn't too tough an act to follow, but a lot to talk about
Even
here.
though I watched a lot of it, so I know the results. But Sam, go ahead, buddy.
Cougar men finished third among all teams, a repeat of last year's third place finish, had 87 and a third team points total. And I think that's really impressive considering we knew coming in Texas Tech was almost assured to be the winners, which they ended up being by a pretty wide margin. And that you got to third place, that you got to a points total pretty comparable to last year's with some pretty key underperformances in some of the events where you expect to be picking up a lot of points. Cougs finished ahead of a bunch of really good teams, and that's why in the broadest terms, this was a really good team performance. As expected, the Cougar women finished with fewer points, though they matched the exact place they finished in last season, 14th out of 16, where we kind of projected they'd be based on your top performers. But I think two important things there. The Cougar women finished with more points than they had last year, 20 and a half. And like the men, they got there with arguably their top 2 projected athletes underperforming. In this case, specifically, not even scoring points in the event finals, which tells you pretty young group there. That's a group worth being excited about as well. And so how I'm going to do this is talk about the top performances on the men's side, talk about the top performances on the women's side, and then we'll do a look ahead to some of the athletes who will be participating in the next stage at prelims. Although I'll kind of mix in the prelims, like, hey, athletes who are going to be moving on there. We'll do a full preview of prelims next week's episode, since that won't be running until after we record our episode at the usual time next week. Your headline men's performance, I know you watched this with me live, Bobby. By no means the only notable one, but headline one has to be Cougar men winning the 4x100 relay final. And you knew U of H would be in contention there. The Cougs had 2 of the top 11 fastest times in the country coming into the championship, but Tech was a top performer. And your expected quartet, Mulholland, Ibobo, Charlton, Hinchliff on the anchor leg, ran for the Cougs, ran their best time of the season by a good margin, and shattered the Arizona facility record with a winning time of 38.51 seconds, currently tied for the 6th fastest time of anyone in the country this season. You probably need to have at least one more improvement in you to seriously push for the podium at outdoors, provided you take care of business at NCAA West prelims. But a great sign that you've had 2 genuinely excellent runs from this group, and it's last regular season meet going back, and then now here in your first one of the postseason, that this group's clearly running their best right now. And I know you watched that one live. It wasn't like you had a bunch of teams around you underperforming. I remember the commentator even saying as you watched it live that everyone handed off pretty clean, and you were just faster than everyone, and it was really cool. Really cool to see. Like, we always talk about how exciting the new events are for us, but 4x1 is this program's bread and butter, and good to see that even moving to a tougher conference generally, that Cougs are still going to be generally the team to beat when it comes to the 4x1. On the field side, Andrea Mita, guy's first career outdoor conference title and what's been a decorated 3-year career so far for you in the men's high jump. Mita won last year's Big 12 indoors, but finished second at last year's outdoors. Most recently, back in February, Big 12 indoors, finished second, once again, but finally broke through an outdoor meet in Tucson, cleared 7 feet 5 inches, besting Tech Sam Hurley, whose best clearance was 7 feet 2.5 inches. And I think the challenge now is what can Mita do at NCAAs? He qualified last season. Obviously, you still have one more round to go in the middle at West Prelims, but his performance last weekend was incredible. Season best, tied for third best in the country this outdoor season. Only one other athlete this month has had a better performance. Also, while we're on the high jump, quickly wanted to give a shout out to freshman Kenneth Owens, who tied for 8th place. Also tying for his personal best, clearing 6 feet 9.5 inches. Only a third of a point, Bobby, but every one of those counts when you're in a team situation like this one. Kanan Worry was someone we expected to be in contention for points, and even in contention for a podium in the men's discus throw. Was one of your best surprise performers. Worry won the discus throw with a best throw of 191 feet 11 inches. Great capper to his college career. This will be his final college outdoor championship. And even though he was probably there anyway, a lot more comfortably put himself where he needed to be to move on to the next round, potentially give himself a chance to be at NCAA Outdoors. He performs at the next event as well. And an event win is obviously valuable wherever you can get it, but you didn't get as much maybe as you expected from the other big men's throwing events. CJ Wokechi, who came in as the top Big 12 performer in the men's shot put, fouled in all of his attempts and didn't advance to later rounds of the finals. Ty Lott, the top performer in the men's hammer throw, finished 4th, which is still valuable points. And he's only a sophomore, so got to watch long term there. And I know that was an event where it was a lot more clustered. It's less surprising that someone else won it. One of the guys actually name checked Ori Williams won the event, but that's the theme of the weekend. There was always a Cougar athlete stepping up. As expected, also, the men's 100-meter final was an event with a ton of Cougars participating. You basically went 4 for 4 in the prelim rounds, qualifying the athletes you would have wanted to qualify for the finals, everybody taking care of business. Louis Inchliff, in the prelims, ran his season best 10.01 seconds to lead all competitors in that round, qualifying along with Ryan Mulholland, Dakari Charlton, and Sean Ayabobo. But one big storyline from this one outside of U of H, Bobby, Tex Kamarley Stewart, who I believe came into the meet as the Big 12's top 100-meter performer, didn't qualify for the 100 finals and struggled in the 200 finals as well. Obviously didn't hurt Tech much in the final team standings, but Cougs took advantage of the finals. Hinchliff once again ran a season best time, breaking that rarefied air of the under 10-second mark, ultimately finishing at 9.97 seconds in second place. Just unfortunately, you ran into a guy in an absolute heater. Arizona's Mason Lawyer, running on his home track, won the event at a time of 9.93 seconds. You don't feel bad at the time. You just kind of, at that point, just tip your hat to a guy running on his home track who clearly was feeling the things you feel as an athlete in front of a home crowd, in front of a bigger crowd than you're used to at a track and field meet. The announcers even talked about that as well. He had a really good 200 final as well. But the finals were a really good team effort. You had obviously Louis in second place. Dakari Charlton was best of the rest, finishing in third with a time of 10.11 seconds, easily his season best. Sean Ayabobo and Ryan Mulholland finishing in 5th and 6th respectively, which that was kind of the performance group you were expecting. Ayabobo underachieved in some events, but he was around 5th or 6th when you looked at the season performance level. And I would say Mulholland definitely overachieved where he was in terms of his best 100 time this season coming in. Similar story in the 200 meter, even with Ayabobo, as I've kind of alluded to, having a tough championship in Arizona. Like the 100 meter, you qualified a good number of athletes for the finals, specifically Ayabobo, Jalen Reeves-Lyle, and Dakari Charlton. And Ayabobo ran a slower than usual 20.53 second time to finish 7th in the 200 finals, but Charlton and Reeves both ran season best performances, finished in 3rd and 4th places respectively, which now gives the Cougs 3 of the top 15 performers in the 200 next time they'll compete at NCAA West prelims. Talk about some of the other key performances as well, because it's not just the guys winning events and on the podiums they're getting you points. It's really got to be a team effort. The Cougs got 5 points from the men's decathlon with the Levesque brothers, Grant and Owen, finishing 5th and 8th respectively. It's cool. You can actually, like, when you look at how the decathlon is scored, Bobby, you could see how they did in all their events. You could see like their best event, their worst event, all that stuff. I was kind of nerding out on that as I did my notes here. Grant's top events were the 400-meter dash and the pole vault. He finished 3rd in both those events, while Owen was 2nd in the high jump. Ironically, his brother's worst event of the entire decathlon, and finished 6th in the pole vault. We haven't talked about it on here. Genuinely insane to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to do a high jump, also do a 400-meter dash, also do a pole vault. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like decathletes are a different breed, and cool to see the Cougars get some points from that. We'll also mention a few guys who were a bit more off the board, giving the Cougs, I think, some really strong performances. Zach Miller, a guy I threw in as one to watch in the 1500 meter after he broke the U of H program record earlier this outdoor season, qualified for the finals as one of only 2 freshmen in the field, had a strong final push to finish in the top 8. The first ever point U of H has gotten in a distance event at a Big 12 championship meet, which is really cool. Miller had a really strong freshman season, going back to cross country in the fall through indoor season, and obviously a very good outdoor season where he broke a program record in his first season in the program. I'm excited to see if come next year he can maybe put in some postseason qualifier level performances, because he will not be advanced to the prelims, but gave the Cougs a point in an event where maybe you didn't expect it. In the men's long jump, a guy I didn't even have in my preview notes, freshman Bradley Lohman finished a season best. He jumped 24 feet 6 inches to finish 6th among all competitors. Not only a personal best performance, but Lohman was one of only 2 freshmen to score points, so a guy there to watch long term. William King wasn't as off the board as those 2 guys. I don't believe I named him specifically, but I did have him in my preview notes because he was a top 100 performer in his event, though he was only 11th best in the Big 12 going into the meet. Tied his personal best time at 51.10 seconds, finished in 7th, and got the Cougs 2 team points. King was literally the only underclassman to score a point in the 400 hurdles finals. So that's very exciting. A guy to watch long-term like Lohman as a freshman. Really cool there. Bottom line, there are certainly some events on the men's side you look at and say, maybe U of H could have gotten more points here or there, but third was about where I expected the Cougs would finish. And if you told me coming in that you weren't going to get as many points from some of the top projected performers, but you were still going to finish third, I would have been very excited about that. I mean, that's 2 straight seasons for the men on the podium in a very good track and field conference. That's strong. I think that excites us to see programs outside of the big money ones here continue to punch above their weight against a much tougher level of competition. Saw it women's golf, seeing it in track and field, seeing it in a lot of places, and that's got to be a really exciting thing if you're a Cougar fan.
Yeah, man, it's super cool. Just a little takeaway I had from the track and field, and Trey Mita's final jump. They'd already won with their attempt at 2.23 meters. They won, right? And Mita was like, "No, keep running it. I wanna keep going," and was able to clear 2.26 meters as well.
You did like the bird celebration afterwards.
Yeah,
love to see it.
Love to see it when he. It just was. I read that note in the recap that the website put out, and I was like, "Wait a minute, he won," and he was like, "Run it back, baby, run it back."
Yeah, I want to see how much I can clear.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Just keep going. Like that's such a dunk on your opponent. It's like you're running up the score at that point. Like that's basically running up the score. Like I already beat you fools, but let's see how bad I can beat you guys.
As expected, the Cougar women had fewer points for the weekend, but like I said earlier, you had a number of athletes putting in season best performances to step up from maybe some areas where you didn't get as many points as you expected. And I think no event exemplified that better than women's shot put, where Cleo Ajapong, who came into Big 12 Outdoors with the second best performance among all the conference's athletes, struggled. She didn't advance past the first round of throws, finishing 18th among all 18 competitors who had a qualified throw. But sophomore Sydney Freeman, who I expected to be competing more around the lower end of the points, kind of around 7th, 8th place, around there, turned in by far her best performance of the season, finished second among all competitors, had a collegiate career best throw of 52 feet and 3/4 of an inch. This didn't just give the Cougars their top field performance in Tucson, but punched her ticket to the postseason, because I think going into the meet, she was probably around the cut line for prelims if she hadn't had a good trip to Tucson. And now you'll have multiple Cougar women's athletes representing the shot put next round, which is really cool. Evgenia Maria Panagiotto, a promising pole vaulter, I think I've mentioned at least a couple times when we've talked track over the last season or two, noted her because she came into the meet with a 36th best performance in the country, which is kind of well above the cut line of athletes I talk about. But the Big 12 is so stacked in the women's pole vault that even with Evgenia having the general profile of an athlete you'd expect to contribute to a team's points haul, I didn't take it as a given she would. I think she was 9th or 10th among all Big 12 athletes with her season performance coming in. Had a best clearance of 13 feet, 2.25 inches to finish tied for 5th. Also, didn't get points, but freshman Ariana Peroni finished just off that in 10th place. So 2 exciting underclassmen to watch there in the coming seasons as well. Cougs also got 5 total points from their 2 relays. Got a little help from Tech in the 4x1 relay finals. They dropped the baton in there, I think the second or third leg. Cougs finished 6th, which is good considering that you came into the meet with the 8th best relay in that event. In the night's closer on Saturday, the 4x4 relay, Cougs ran a season best time to finish 7th. And given that 5 of the 6 relays ahead of the Cougs ran season best times, Tech, the team that actually won, broke the Arizona facility record. I think you can feel specifically good about that because multiple points weren't guaranteed there. Everybody was running their best, and you still managed to, I think, get multiple points on the board. Triple jump, Shiana Hall also faced a really difficult field of competitors, including the defending NCAA indoor champion, Danielle Womack-Pego from K-State, who actually ended up losing to an athlete from Tech. Hall had her best jump of the season, 43 feet, 10 inches, and finished sixth among all competitors. And she dealt with injuries from what I could tell watching later on. So gutsy effort from Hall in her first collegiate outdoor championship, and another athlete who should be competing in the next round and worth being excited about in the long term. Underachieved in a couple of key events. Mentioned the shot put earlier. Also in the women's 100 hurdles, Casey McCoy, the Cougs' top projected women's sprinter or hurdler, at the meet, clipped a hurdle with her foot in prelims, fell into another competitor's lane, and then obviously didn't qualify for the finals. McCoy still has a good season best time, so she's well positioned to maybe get some redemption next round in the prelims, but certainly she'll have wished prelims went a little bit better at Big 12 Outdoors, and obviously certainly hoping she's healthy here in a week and some change time in Arkansas. Like the men, if you had told me you were getting 0 points from either Ajapong or McCoy, I wouldn't have been more optimistic about equaling last season's finish. I wouldn't have been optimistic certainly about scoring more points than last year, but the Cougar women still managed that. And along with how young this group is generally, I think that's worth being excited about in the long term.
Yeah, super exciting. Like you said, when you are heading into something like this, and when your top performers don't actually perform, they just have a bad meet, to still score more points than you did last year just shows the growth of the program and the steps you're trying to take in the right direction. And that's hard not to get excited about something like that, man.
Yeah, you think of track as an individual sport, and in the strictest sense it is, but this was a real team effort. This showed a real collective desire from this group to get everything possible from every event they're competing in, which is really cool. Alluded to it already. You got prelims coming up. You'll be going to the West prelims that will be held in Fayetteville, Arkansas, hosted by the University of Arkansas, which will run the Wednesday after next. So I believe that's the 27th through that Saturday. We'll save the full preview for that episode, Bobby, but you can confirm this. I've already started my spreadsheet. I've already started the preview process, so you will get plenty of thoughts here from the Scott Holland podcast on what's to come for this team.
Yes, sir, and we are excited.
Figure we close tonight with a little pre-NBA draft talk, as a number of Cougar men's basketball alums worked out for NBA teams since we last recorded a podcast. Of course, you have future first-round picks, Kingston Flemings and Kristen Knack Jr. working out for the Scouts, but you also had program veterans Miles Uzan and Emmanuel Sharp out there as well, as they look to continue their basketball careers and work their way into being draftable prospects. We'll talk about all 4 of the guys and what they did in front of NBA scouts, coaches, and front office people last week. Probably got to lead with Kingston Flemings. He's the certain top pick out of that group of 4. Did a great job at all of the actual things he can control, all the performance-related things, if you will. I did see some people commenting about Flemings' measured wingspan at the combine, not blowing you away, but I mean, even the exact measurements, you can watch film. You can get a good judge on wingspan just by watching a guy and seeing how long his arms are. So I doubt that was a big, shocking piece of news to NBA teams that Flemings' wingspan was only 1 inch above his height. And I think that's at least negated somewhat by the fact that in the actual physical testing portions of the combine, Flemings did awesome. He was top 11 among all participants in every single category of measurable athletic drill. second in the shuttle run, sixth in the pro lane agility drill, tied for second among all participants in the 3/4 court sprint. I mean, nobody who watched any meaningful amount of Kingston Fleming's playing for U of H this past season should be surprised that he's not just a guy who checks all the boxes in terms of mental makeup and maturity, but he's also physically gifted as a guard in a way that, even acknowledging the wingspan stuff, only a small number of guys in the draft are.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the same thing you did about the wingspan, and people were kind of freaking out about it. But Sam, I watched a lot of Houston Cougar basketball this year, and at no point was I like, man, if Kingston was a little taller, he would be able to get that shot off. That guy had no problem getting a shot off. That guy had no problem defending, getting loose balls. I didn't see anywhere where I was like, man, if Kingston's arms were 2 inches longer, that would have made the difference here.
Yeah, he was still a guy who was top 250 nationally in steal rate. Like he was still a guy who's getting his hand on ball, a guy who was doing what he needed to do defensively. I said this to you last week, but if the top 8 teams projected to pick really put that much stock in Fleming's wingspan over everything else, like he did in his one season of college basketball, all the good stuff that you've mentioned, I've mentioned, we've talked about over his season with the Cougs, and the Mavericks are picking at 9 and take him there, I'm going to say something very brave, Bobby. Then he ended up with the right team. Because this young man's a star. He deserves to be with a team picking the lottery part of the draft who sees that, even if that team is the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, who says personal growth isn't possible here, man?
Look at you. I'm so proud of you, buddy.
Also, not surprisingly, Chris Sinak Jr., a guy we knew wasn't sure on the physical tools that would stand out in this kind of combine setting, opened some eyes last week. He measured at 240 pounds after coming into U of H, I think around 220, 225. Won't say skinny, but maybe slighter of frame than you'd want for a guy who's a soon-to-be NBA big man. No surprise, by the way, that the Allen Bishop strength and conditioning program put the right amount of weight in his frame, as we've now seen over a number of years of him running the men's basketball team's strength and conditioning program. But 7'5" wingspan, 9-foot standing reach are really the exact kind of tantalizing physical tools that an NBA team would want to see from a projected first-round pick. I think it's basketball is more than just measurables. We just got done talking about how basketball is more than just measurables with Kingston Fleming's, but apparently he also got good reviews for his performance in the on-court mobility drills. Again, shouldn't be any surprise from anyone who watched Sinak on tape from his season at U of H. Do you see a guy who's completely developed at 18 or 19 years old in Sinak? No, certainly not. But I would also say the list of guys who are completely developed basketball players at that age, at this level, is an extremely short one that you could probably count on one hand with a finger or two to spare. And you also saw more than a few flashes in that season of a guy with not just the elite measurables, but an uncommon level of skill for a big man whose physical maturity is developing, as it always does with someone at that age, from 18, 19 to where he's going to be at 22, 23, which is, I think, what you have to kind of have in your head if your team picking him. And like Fleming's, I think it also has to be a positive in any evaluation that Chris Sinak could have gone just about anywhere in the country. He was an elite recruit, but he chose to come to Houston, where he probably got less NIL money than some of the other suitors, and certainly got harder coaching than he would have at some of those programs, because he wanted to be a serious pro. That tells me he's a guy who's serious about his craft, a guy who's not going to be put off by hard coaching in the pros. You're not going to see a guy who's shocked by the standard of what's expected of him as a professional basketball player, because he's already had to deal with the coaching Kelvin Sampson, who's expected a really high standard of him.
Yeah, for me, kind of end of the season, I saw some where he was going to kind of be like a borderline, maybe first round kind of guy. I thought that was a little crazy, but based on everything I saw and heard coming out of the combine, I think he definitely solidified himself as a first round pick there, maybe even jumping into the lottery, the bottom part of the lottery.
Yeah, I think I have a legit 3-point range, good defensive rebounder, which I think tells you the 1-2 in terms of being physical is there with him, which I think is important. Like you can't coach 1-2 at the professional level, because it's just such a high level of competition. The 1-2's there. The fact that he, again, was willing to go to a program where you have to really be on your shit. You have a coach who's holding you to a high standard. Like, Kelvin Sampson didn't put Chris Sinak in the lineup from day one because he thought, oh, he's a 5-star. I got to have him in there. Like, Kelvin Sampson is as old school as they come. Like, if he wasn't meeting his standard, he would not have been a starter, which I think you and I know that. And I think the larger basketball world is starting to learn that as well. No surprise also from the veterans. Emmanuel Sharp really turned heads despite not being the level of pro prospect. Acknowledge that Flemings and Sinak are. Specifically in the scrimmage portions of the event, Sharp really showed his bulldog defense, showed the 3-point shooting that made him such an indispensable guy at U of H these past 4 seasons. He's never going to be, Sharp is a wow youth measurables guy, but scored 17 points, was 3 of 7 from 3-point range, and had 2 steals and assists during one of the big scrimmages. And they're pretty different players, but I thought LJ Cryer's rookie season with the Warriors showed what veteran guards who come from the UH program can do. Because I was never convinced last season that LJ would go to the next level and be a superstar, but the unbelievable shooting he possessed and the fact that he had 2 seasons of this program to kind of refine the defense and toughness stuff that were maybe a bit more questionable than when he came in, I was so sold he had a future in the NBA. And lo and behold, he averaged 20 plus minutes per game down the stretch for the Warriors. Sharp doesn't have maybe the elite 3-point shooting that Cryer does, but in my opinion, he's coming to the NBA much stronger for the perimeter defense, much stronger for the toughness aspects, a little taller and better built than Cryer as well. I could see him either being a second round guy for a playoff team or kind of like Cryer, an undrafted free agent who comes in and wows in the summer league and in preseason camp. Also, I mentioned Miles Uzan participating in this event with the other 3 guys as well. I know Uzan's last year at U of H had some moments of inconsistency, but I want to say broadly, and I don't know if I've said enough on here, it speaks so well to what a selfless team guy he is, that he cares enough about winning that he wanted to stay at U of H and win to get back to the title game after losing it the year before, and then try and make it work when they brought in an elite recruit in Kingston Flemings to play the same position as him. I think you saw at times having those 2 guys who were ostensibly point guards affected his specific role. It didn't look as clean as it did 2 seasons ago. Not to mention, I think 2 seasons ago, you had him paired with a pair of, I would say, elite to good volume 3-point shooters in Cryer and Sharp. That opened up a lot for his game. He didn't have that as much this past season. I'm not going to speak as definitively on what I think Uzan could be the next level compared to Sharp and the other 2 players, but to me, the point guard skills and defense are unquestionably going to make him valuable. And I think he'll, without a doubt, be on an NBA Summer League team, certainly in a preseason camp after that. Wouldn't be surprised if he's drafted in the second round either, to be clear, because point guard skills and the level of winning that Milos did at Houston don't necessarily grow on trees.
Yeah, everything I've seen is that you kind of saw Milos just solidify himself as probably a early to mid second rounder from all the different mocks I kind of looked up. And then Emmanuel Sharp, like you said, the measurables weren't, they don't blow you away. He's not like a 6'9" guy who could shoot the 3 or anything like that. But Emmanuel Sharp, with those 17 points in that scrimmage, like you mentioned, and he apparently played really good defense. I'm starting to see him kind of sneak his way into being a draft pick. And we've discussed this before, but draft picks, they get a little higher on the hierarchy. You get to go to Summer League and can just kind of show out there. So really hoping that all those guys do end up getting drafted.
Yeah, I've only missed 1 Summer League since I moved out here to Vegas. We'll certainly be not missing one where at least these 4 guys will be participating among the various Cougar alumni.
Yeah, I am a little envious that you very well may get to see 4 Cougs play in Vegas.
All right, Bobby, we did it. You want to come back here tomorrow and talk a little more Cougs?
All right, I'm ready for tomorrow. But this episode is done. And if you have any feedback for us, you can find us on social media. We want to thank you guys so much for listening. I skipped that, Sam, so I want to go back and make sure I thank the listeners for listening to this episode.
Not feeling very thanks. It's a good thing they did that.
Yeah, the Scott Holman podcast. But in all seriousness, thank you guys so much for listening. If you have any feedback for us, you can find us on social media you can find us on Twitter at SH Podcast. You can find us on Blue Sky at podcast.bsky.social. And if you are more of an old school type person and you want to send us an email, you can find us at shpodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to throw some money behind us because you appreciate the work Sam and I do, and you want to help us with our hosting or buying streams of our women's golf program at regionals or anything like that, you can send us. You can find us on Patreon for as little as $5 a month at patreon.com/shpodcast. Sam, did I cover it all?
You did, buddy.
All right. What do we always say?
Go Cougs.
All right. Go Cougs!